Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the NBA Front Office Show. It's Friday. You know what that means.
Front Office Friday! Conference Finals Edition.
Conference Finals Edition. Let's go. The Thunder up 2-0 over the Wolves. 1-0 lead for the Pacers, the second game in that series coming up tonight. Keith, I guess let's start with last night's game. The Thunder are going to be pretty tough to beat. They in a blink of an eye, they go on these runs and the game's pretty much over. They are right now the heavy favorite to win the NBA championship. And I think there's good reason for that.
Yeah, they should be, right? I mean, 68 wins, historic scoring margin in the regular season, and everything they did well in the regular season is carried over to the playoffs so far. And it sounds super simple, but you have to make your shots if you're going to beat them. You're not going to beat them shooting 30% or under from the floor, from behind the arc. And that's where the Wolves have been in the first two games. I think if you're Minnesota, you at least go home thinking, all right, well, we'll get a lift from the home crowd. We have to shoot better moving forward. They did clean up the turnovers a little bit, but you said it. The Thunder, I've been saying for, it feels like all season, they take 5-point deficits and flip them into 15-point leads faster than any team I've ever seen in the NBA, and that they are, absolutely rolling. So, I mean, it's a little scary to think about, like, in this new world where we're like, parity. Like, are the Thunder going to set up for, a decent run here? And by a decent run, I mean the next 3-4 years, because beyond that, it starts to get a little harder to keep everything together.
Well, I mean, being as cap focused as we are, one of the realities of the Thunder is that they are going to have to pay these guys at some point. They've got guys that fortuitously are on rookie contracts. And so that could certainly change the dynamic in OKC, but I'm not going to prophesize their downfall or anything like that. Not right now, not with how well they're playing and their ability to go on these runs. A lot of it is predicated on their ability to force turnovers. They're so great at forcing these live ball turnovers. So in 4 or 5 seconds of an actual play, it's a missed scoring opportunity for your opponent and a quick 2 points going into the basket the other way. You string a few of those together in a 1 or 2 minute span in the course of the game, and that can turn things around very, very quickly. But I'll tell you this, that the Wolves, I don't think the Wolves are necessarily dead, but Naz Reid has to be able to make a three. He's 0 for 12 from behind there. You're not going to win. As you said, you're not going to win if your guys aren't knocking down shots. And right now, the Wolves guys are simply not knocking down shots. And even guys that you would expect to be hitting shots are missing. And part of that, we should give credit, of course, to the Thunder's defense. But the Wolves have got to be hoping for some type of normalcy with their shot making.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, right? You need the guys who made shots all year to bounce back and make shots. And I said it before the series started, much like their previous series, you need the bench trio of DiVincenzo, Reed, and Alexander Walker to play better than the Thunder's bench. And they certainly can. It just hasn't happened yet in these first couple games. Those guys have really struggled. They were better in game 2 than they were in game 1. But it's tough. There's such a gap between the two starting groups that if you can't really pull it together that way, it's going to be a little rough. So we'll see. By the time we're doing this next Friday, we might be one team at least in the finals, maybe even two, pending how the Pacers go against the Knicks.
The Wolves bench did outscore the Thunder's bench, but Dante DiVincenzo was a -27 in the game. Now, that stat, we say it all the time. We always caution people that stat is not everything, but still, that's not a good sign that your bench is beating the other. Obviously, you are not beating the other team's bench when you're a -27. That's not going to get it done.
Especially, and that just tells you, like, part of what that stat tells you, and I bet if we went and looked, like, it actually broke down the play-by-play, he happened to be on the court during a bunch of runs that they went on. There was a really interesting thing. It was kind of funny. I had done it for the basketball bulletin in a game breakdown, and then James Ham did it even more depth on the Kings side. But it was when the Kings played the Lakers, and people were like, I can't believe how bad Kevin Huerter was. This was before he got traded. Kevin Huerter just happened to be on the court in that game when LeBron went crazy. It was like one of those throwback LeBron.
Yeah, that was like the 4th game of the season. Or
yeah, exactly. It was pretty early on. And like everybody's like, Kevin Huerter. Kevin Huerter wasn't really involved in any of it. It was just LeBron went nuts. They couldn't stop him. And it was like a 20-2 scoring binge by the Lakers. And that's why that stat can be faulty. That said, if you watched last night, DiVincenzo happened to be out there during some of the runs, but he wasn't doing a whole lot of pretty much resistance defensively.
And Kevin Huerter specifically. I mean, I know that this is not to counter the point or anything like that, because your point, of course, stands. But like Kevin Huerter, part of that was that he wasn't Keon Ellis, right? That was,
yes.
And that's, I'm talking over the long haul of the Kings season as an issue for them. But so while he was a net negative for a while to a higher degree than maybe he should have been, they still needed to make that switch ultimately. But yeah, look, you could be a huge negative in a game in plus minus without necessarily being the reason for that. And that's what you're getting at there. All right, let's go. Let's go here. By the way, everybody, thank you for joining us on the start of a holiday weekend. We will be taking your questions and comments throughout the show, so fire them off in the comments section. Gerson Yabusele, the Yossi said the apparently that his market is going to be 5.6 million on the taxpayer MLE. I thought the taxpayer was 5.1. Am I wrong on that?
It's
just over 5, is ever, because somewhere in that range.
It's like 5 something.
5 something. Do you guys think that'll be the case, that's going to be his market value? Like, that sounds plausible to me, that maybe that's ends up being his market value. I know the Sixers would really love to keep him. That could prove a little bit tricky, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got that kind of money personally.
Yeah, and just to close the loop, 5.168 this year. Projected for next season, 5.685. So 5.685 million. So 5.67 million.
Yeah.
On the taxpayer. Yeah, that's about where I see him as well. I think he's going to get a bump over his minimum contract that he played for this year. I think between the work he did overseas, the Olympics, and then the way that translated into him having a very strong NBA season, it's no longer, it doesn't have to be a prove it type situation for him, but it also doesn't have to be a, oh my gosh, like we are gonna give him the full non-taxpayer MLE, or we're gonna give him 20 million a year. Like, those would be crazy. But yeah, $5-6 million bucks, sure, yeah, that makes sense, especially if you're a team where it is, we don't have a lot of holes to fill. We really need somebody who is a true 4 but can play a little bit of small ball 5. Yeah, why not? Go for it. That makes a lot of sense to me. That's what I think you're going to see teams be very targeted in the way they use exceptions this summer, where it is, this guy fills this specific need for us. We're going to go get him, and we're going to go do that.
So with the 76ers, what are their options to keep him then?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they're in position to have the taxpayer themselves. Let's see what it looks like with a bunch of other guys, right? You've got obviously the 3 big guys at the top there, Embiid, George, and Maxey, all on max deals. Then you've got, I project that Oubre, Drummond, and Gordon will all opt in because that makes the most sense for them. Gordon could opt out because it doesn't really change what he makes actually.
Sure.
I'm in that number, but I think his fear would be, where am I going then if I opt out? I think he's still worth a minimum contract just as a bench scorer shooter, but he may opt in. Then what becomes a big question is, what does Quentin Grimes get paid this summer for the Sixers? If that starts pushing upwards, then maybe you can't use the taxpayer, because remember, using the taxpayer MLE hard caps you at the second apron. So if you trip into that second apron there, that's where it gets rough. And as you pull it up there, we're 30.5-ish below the second apron. So tight once you fill everything out, but probably okay. I think if it gets to be much more than the taxpayer, Yabusele's out. And that could be where a team says, you know what, we'll go 6 million, because they can't do that.
Yeah.
So we'll go to that number because it's only slightly more, and we'll go there out of our non-taxpayer, because maybe they don't have an apron concern and they just move forward that way.
Right. That'd be interesting to see how that's going to play out. But I do think that he's going to be a really interesting piece on the market. Just, there's not a lot of depth on the free agent market. So guys like Yabusele may find a real market for themselves. Now, again,
that was the understatement of the year from you.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a little bit of depth at the guard position.
There's some good role players.
Exactly. There's some decent, but it's not like like last year, it was Paul George was the big prize of free agent. Obviously, the 70s that didn't work out the way the 76ers wanted to. There's nobody like that out there, unless like like LeBron doesn't pick up his player option and says, I want to go somewhere else. Like, obviously that shifts things, right? But right now there does, or James Harden or any of these other guys, but that doesn't seem to be likely. So yeah, there's not a lot out there. It is a very, very shallow free agent pool, which is again part of why we keep calling this the summer of trades. I think a lot of teams are going to try to improve via the trade market because the free agent market is just not that. There's just not a lot there. If you want to make big changes to your team, you're going to have to do it on the trade market.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's like you said, that's why we keep hammering that home. Hey, I want to do two things quickly before we little self-promotion here. First is if you're interested in seeing how shallow the free agent market is, my positional previews started going up and my free agent rankings. Point guards posted on Spot Track today. Just posted maybe within the last hour or so. I'm up there, so I rank all the free agent point guards. I put them into the tiers, the all-star, starter, rotation, and fringe tiers, and then rank them within those tiers. And you can see there's a couple guys that are all-star level, a few more guys that are starter level type impact, and then rotation's actually decent amount of guys, but it drops off relatively quickly in terms of like, I really love that guy. He'd be great. Like all of a sudden you're like, ooh, and some of those guys are going to have to take minimum deals because that's all that's going to be available this offseason. So you can check that out. The other thing, since the guy who asked the question mentioned Yossi Goslin, Yossi and I will be part of Sports Business Classroom this summer out in Las Vegas. We'll be teaching folks the salary cap, the CBA, alongside Bobby Marks of ESPN and Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report. We'll all be out there together. The four of us are the instructor team for the CBA and salary cap. If you're interested, check it out, sportsbusinessclassroom.com. There are very, very few spots remaining. But if you do sign up and it's going to ask where you heard about the program, put in NBA front office, all one word, all caps, NBA front office, and that helps us out a little bit there if we get a couple people to break it out.
All right. Definitely something to check out. Going to be a lot of fun. And Summer League in general, it is a blast. If you guys get a chance to go out there, it's going to be a good time. Andrew said, what are the Wolves likely to do if they get swept or gentlemen swept? So if they go out in 4 or 5, which right now they're down 0-2 in the series, we'll see what happens in game 3. Game 3 is probably their best shot to get a win, I think, in this series. They go back home, you win game 3. Okay, then maybe you can turn the series around. I think the Wolves are going to throw everything at the Thunder because they have to in game 3. But let's say the Wolves go out in 4 or 5. What do they do? How do they respond? How does that change things? And I'll pull up their cap sheet here.
Yeah, I think with the Wolves, it's probably mostly run it back. We'll see what happens.
Not a lot of flexibility here, right?
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? If it sounds good to say, well, what if Randall and Reed, decline their player options? You're in a spot where, I don't know, right? Like, does that really get you where you need to be? If they go that direction, it's still not going to free up a ton of flexibility spending wise. And now you're without two good players. Randall had a really nice year. He's had a really nice playoffs last night, notwithstanding. And then Reed is, consistently one of the better backup big men in the league. And you need that as Gobert ages and Randall has had some injury issues. So I think you're probably running it back. Maybe you look to make a move around the edges a little bit. And we talked about it the other day. I think you bring Mike Conley back. You're hopeful Rob Dillingham is ready to take on a much bigger role next season, maybe even start by the end of the year. And you just kind of keep moving with this group. They might look to trade Rudy Gobert, but I don't know where you're going with that one. And then I think with, Edwards is obviously locked in. I don't think you're going to move Jaden McDaniels. So that's a long way of saying I think it's probably going to look mostly the same.
I think that part of it too is we have to remember Anthony Edwards is 23. He's not a static value, right? This is not what he produces on the floor is not going to be the same right now as it is next year, as it is the year after that. And we never know for sure what a player's trajectory is going to be, but you would assume that at 24. Anthony Edwards is going to be even better than he already is at 23. So some of the Wolves, and when we talk about what their ceiling is, some of it is going to be determined by how much more can Ant grow? What level can he get his game to over the next few years? And that's something where people just assume, oh, this is what the team is. They weren't good enough this year. Projecting forward, that means they're never going to be good enough. And that's if that's the path we're going down. I would hesitate to say that that's for sure going to be the case. Now, Rudy Gobert at 32, is he going to be better? Probably not, right? Like that's just the way we tend to see these things play out. He's probably reached his peak, but a dude who's 23 and is already playing the way Ant does, it's not impossible for him to hit yet another level, even though he's already playing so well. And that's what's exciting about him and what the Wolves have here. I also think, Kate, this goes into a conversation I was actually having on Memphis radio yesterday. I think it was, maybe it was the day before, but we're talking a little bit about the NBA as it's presently constructed and under the new CBA, and the way you've got teams that in the past we may have seen as, oh, this team is simply not good enough. They're going to wind up in that kind of upper echelon of a treadmill team territory, so you might as well just blow the whole thing up. Well, today's NBA, there's so much parity. One or two moves could be all it takes, and it doesn't have to be a superstar move to put you over the top, to put you to that next level. Some organic growth from a player could put you to that next level. You get your guys to click come playoff time. That can change things. It's not just about the top end talent. The rest of the talent on the roster, the right role pieces, I think matter more now than ever before. So that's the caution too, when people go, oh, see, clearly the Wolves weren't good enough, they should just blow it up. No, that's not always the case. They're not as far off as they may have been, say, and I'm talking about not just the Wolves, but a lot of teams could be in this category as they were, say, 10 years ago or so, because of the ability to add one or two different pieces, role players, make the puzzle pieces fit just a little different. And next thing you know, you're the team that's making a run.
Yeah, that's it. It's nailing your window is going to be harder than ever in the NBA now, because if you wait too long, you never get there. If you go too early, maybe your guys you need to improve, they don't get there, and then your team doesn't get there. So you have to be really right on with when you kind of make your all-in type moves to go there. And I think the windows are going to be shorter in general. I think we're going to see more 3-4 year runs with teams before they have to, I'm not going to say blow it up, but at least pivot hard, much like Boston is going to have to do this summer.
Sure.
Pivot that way. But I think we'll really the old way of, all right, this team didn't get there, blow it up. I think the full blow it up is going to be more reserved for, all right, we're really old or we're really injured. Like, it's not going to happen for us. Like, let's say Philly goes through another year of just ton of injuries and it's like clear. That's a blow it up, because it's just not going to happen. What are we going to wait on forever? It's time to blow it up and start all over here. Where, a team like Minnesota, yeah, you don't blow it up because you're right there. Even if you lose and you get swept, you're like, all right, we got swept by one of the best teams in NBA history at this point. Yeah. Like, we don't want to overreact to that, because what if that team next year, and we wouldn't wish this on anybody, obviously, but like somebody gets hurt. And now the Thunder aren't what they are this year. That's how quickly it changes. That's why I don't think Cleveland is going to go into a place where why make major changes? Like, Boston's out of the picture for a year at least. You're right there with, I know they lost to the Pacers, but they're right there with the Pacers in the Knicks. Just more or less run it back. Make a couple moves around the edges, but keep your core together. Yeah, you listen to Jared Allen offers, maybe Darius Garland offers if the right ones come along. But for the most part, run it back and get back after it.
And you should always listen to offers, regardless of who the player is, of course. But because you never know what can happen. But Cleveland was where I wanted to go with that next, because I think they fall in that category too. People go, oh, yep, see, that's it. They got beaten round 2. That's it. They're done. Blow it up. Trade everybody. Get rid of them all. No, that's not the NBA that we're living in anymore. That is not the NBA the way it is anymore. There is value to consistency. There's value to having guys come back, build chemistry. All of that makes some moves around the edges if you believe in your core. Now, if you believe your core is flawed and there is a problem there, and maybe that's where, the 76ers, like you said, have another bad season, get to that point, okay, then it's time to make changes. But I don't think it's as difficult of a jump for the upper echelon, but not quite contender teams to get up to that contender status as it used to be.
Yeah.
All right. let's go here. D-Rock, thanks for the super chat. Said, sorry I'm late.
You're excused.
We'll forgive you. We will
just
forgive
this
you.
once, though.
This
Next
one
time, detention.
The Brooklyn Nets are close to non-existent right now in New York City. I hope the Pacers sweep them. What's your best recommendation for my Nets? Well, the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals, so of course, and the Nets are not playing right now. They're out of sight, out of mind. So I'm not surprised that people aren't talking about the Nets right now in New York City. But the best recommendation for the Nets, continue to be opportunistic. You know what I mean? Like, that's, if there's an opportunity, I know they want Giannis. I don't know that they really can get into the mix there. Like, does Giannis want to go? Do you have a plan? If you can get Giannis, we give up whatever you have to give up to get Giannis, which is probably going to be a lot. If Giannis even hits the market, right? Do you have a plan where you can say, Giannis, don't freak out, because we've got players X, Y, and Z all coming right now. We're going to make all the, and then we're going to be an immediate contender. You'd have to have that plan in place. But more realistic, I think, is stay the course. I thought they made a brilliant trade with the Mikal Bridges move. I think they have an incredibly bright future now that's set up in front of them. So continue to be opportunistic. They can be the spoiler with that cap space they've got. They can throw it at some restricted free agents if they want. They can use it to absorb some salaries via trade. They're going to be a team that a lot of teams are going to be calling because, like we said, it's going to be the summer of the trade. So we're going to see a lot of teams trying to make moves. A lot of teams are going to need a third team in order to avoid triggering that hard cap at the first-year apron by taking back more salary than you send out in a trade. So I think the Nets are in a great position to kind of, maybe you pursue Giannis, but otherwise you sit back, you be opportunistic, you survey the landscape, and you see what's there to add assets to this team, and then go from there. I think they're in a really strong position. And what's great is they've got versatility to move in a lot of different directions.
Yeah, and I let Sean Marks do his thing this summer, right? And maybe for the next couple of cycles, really let him kind of just do his thing where he is, he does some offer sheets again. Maybe it's eat some contracts. Maybe he does the full diamond mining process, which turned out Joe Harris and Spencer Dinwiddie the first time around, and just let him kind of work. I think he's really good in this position. That's not, and I'm never going to blame them for, well, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving picked us, and this is where they wanted to team up, and the Nets went to the highest places they've been, as a group. And if not for Kevin Durant having a slightly bigger foot, they might have been in the NBA Finals that year. They might have won the title. Who knows? But it's and then things just kind of fell apart pretty rapidly after that due to injuries. And then James Harden didn't want to be there anymore, and it all went sideways. But I think, if you can get Giannis, and then we can get Giannis plus this other guy, and we can build out a roster around him. All right, sure. I'm not going to really complain about that, but I think for the most part, patience. And like you said, be opportunistic. I've jokingly said Sean Marks should start the offseason standing in front of the Barclays Center with a tablet that says, bring me your tired, you're hungry, your bad contracts, and just send them with a draft pick, right? And we'll be happy.
Is he holding a torch in the air too?
He should be, yeah. Yeah. Or a copy of the CBA or something.
Yeah, he's got the CBA and the torch.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Lady Liberty lighting the world.
Just pull all your, just pull all your, pull all your stuff that you can get there. So yeah. And D-Rock, we knew you meant Pacers sweep the Knicks. You're good, man.
Absolutely.
We followed.
I'm with you. All right. This one said, Trevor, I saw your video about Rui for Porzingis. Keith, what do you think of this? So just to give you the context, in case you didn't see the video, Keith, there was a report on a hypothetical trade on Bleacher Report saying, hey, the Lakers should do this trade. Or it was like, hey, these hypothetical trades should happen over the course of the NBA offseason. And one of it was, I believe it was like Rui, an expiring contract like Maxi Kleba, and then like a couple of pick swaps for Porzingis or something. And I react. So this was not my trade. I reacted to this trade and then broke down the pros and cons from the Lakers' perspective of doing something like that. And my big thing from it, obviously this was for Lakers Nation, so I didn't spend a lot of time on the Celtics side of things, but the biggest thing I looked at from the Celtics perspective is, well, you're getting a couple of pick swaps, but you're swapping expiring contracts for expiring contracts. If the goal is to save money, they would have to incorporate a third team into that and have salary go to a third team. Otherwise, you're still running into that second tier apron problem, which is one of the challenges with the CBA. It's trying to actually cut salary off of your books if there's not a team out there with cap space to absorb contracts. So you do have that second tier or the the full MLE can be used as a trade exception now. So that was the way I looked at that deal so far, without getting into my ultimate verdict on it.
Yeah, that's where it becomes, all right, who will take on Kleba? That's the easier one, just because it's like 7 million less than Hachimura. Like, all right, if you divert one of those swaps to excuse me, the Nets or another team, and they take on Kleba and Boston Lizard. I mean, obviously, yeah, if you could get Hachimura to the Nets, let the Nets eat his contract and go, and you only take back Kleba for Porzingis, that's like 19 million in savings. So you'd be all over that if you're the Celtics. The challenge is if they have to take back both of them, that's like $1 million, and
that's the problem.
That doesn't do anything for Boston. That's just not enough. So you'd rather just hold on to Porzingis and see what comes later down the line with that. Value wise, the value's fine. It's just a little bit off because you'd rather be able to get out of that. But I like the general thought process. I don't know that Luka wants to play with Porzingis again. Porzingis last year at the finals was like, hey, like, we're cool. Like, I think we've patched things up. Luka was a little less like, we're cool. I think we've patched things up. So I'm not sure where that part of it would fall. I kind of think, all right, if he's going there, LeBron would be like, hey, you two morons, knock it off. Like, let's go try to win. Right. And that would be how it would go down, because all of a sudden it's like we have a chance to win. That changes a lot of things about the way guys feel about each other. But yeah, I don't know. I don't hate the value. I don't hate the idea, but you got to get a third team in there for it to work for Boston.
For both sides, you would need a third team in, because the Lakers can't take back more salary than they send out either. Correct. Because that would hard cap them at the first year. So you'd have to get a third team in. But ultimately, my final from a Lakers side of things was a really strong no, because Luka and Porzingis, we've been there, done that, and because of the opportunity cost. Do you want to pay Porzingis $30 million and give up a starter to do it when they need to add depth, plus pick swaps are going out and everything? It doesn't make that would have to be a move that you make if you strike out on a bunch of other big man targets. That's where you'd have to be. And maybe that's ultimately where we end up. Sure. But I would be, so I know from the Lakers perspective, a lot of people said, hey, you would have to explore other options first. And those were the people that were really, most Lakers fans were just a strong no chance, would never do this.
It's tough too, because LeBron misses time. Luka tends to, doesn't miss often like last year, but Luka occasionally misses some time. Now Porzingis is very likely to miss time. That gets really rough, because now, I mean, you'd have to have a rock solid backup center that you love, and ideally it'd be someone who could maybe play beside Porzingis at times too, just to increase the value, and that gets a little tough in that situation. And just because it's a fun little trade exercise with this, I would the way I would make this work from the Lakers side to avoid hard capping themselves, you guarantee Shake Milton's contract, put him in the deal, but then he goes either off to a third team, a fourth team, somebody else acquires him, and the Lakers kick a second for them to do that, because you're going to have to give something for them to do it. And the reason I'm saying it's the Lakers have to do it in this case is this is helping them. It's always who is it helping avoid a problem is the team that has to pay. For Boston would have to give up some of the value, either direct from the Lakers instead of coming to them, or they give up value in another way to say, hey, Brooklyn, will you eat Kleba's contract or Hachimura's contract or whatever? So those are kind of the way you have to do those things. But that's easy enough to work out, where you do that, you guarantee Milton, and see you later. Thanks for hanging out here for a few months, and
and you would guarantee just enough to satisfy the rules of the
exactly. Deal. Guarantee, $2 million or whatever gets you over Porzingis' salary in total. So that way you're bringing back less. But that's kind of the fun part of the new CBA is there's a lot more wrinkle and strategy other than just get close to the money to make it work. Like, that's kind of some of the fun wrinkles that are in there that works. And if you're these other teams where you're like, man, we're miles, like the Charlotte Hornets and the Towns Randall trade. We're miles from the apron, so we'll hard cap ourselves. Who cares?
They don't care.
close. We'll take in a bunch of second round pick value to take on all those the sign and trade contracts that the Knicks had to do for what was it, Daquan Jeffries and other guys. Like, yeah, sure, let's go. So yeah, I think that becomes really really interesting with that.
All right, let's go here. Tomas said, could you speak to the
get those
increase?
Likes up. Come on. Hit that
yeah, let's get a like spike here.
Smash that like button. Yeah, now I'm a YouTuber. Let's go.
Yeah. Could you speak on the increasing association and collaboration between the NBA and gambling companies like PrizePicks, FanDuel, and others? This makes me sound old, but I'm not a big fan. Well, I think, first of all, we have to clarify that it's not just the NBA. This is all sports right now. I mean, I guess I can't really speak to like hockey, where they're not there because I just don't follow it enough. But like NFL, obviously, it's a big thing there. NBA, of course. So
it's obviously big in soccer. They wear
for sure
gambling advertisements right on their jerseys.
Right. It is. And so, this is the way that things have gone across sports, not just the NBA. And some people may find it distasteful and not like it, but it's the way things have gone across the sports world. And this is not just an NBA specific thing.
Yeah, I don't like it. I think it's, I don't like the pervasiveness of it where you can't watch a single game now, whether it is football, baseball, or basketball, where it's not like bet on the next thing, right? Like who will be ahead at the end of the quarter, and all that stuff. Like there's just some stuff where it's like, all right, it's in a lot of ways, gambling is an addiction, and it's hard for a lot of people to break. We've made it very easy for them. I think within a decade, it will either be so gone, like where it is what it is and we deal with it, or we will have severe restrictions around things related to gambling. I don't it doesn't directly impact the physical health like smoking or drinking does, but it's like, I know there's that one commercial that airs on TV right now where it's like, did you know you can't drink beer in a beer commercial? I think Post Malone's in that commercial, and he's like, what? Oh, yeah. And it's like, yeah, you can't show people drinking beer, which is a little silly, but that's because that's where they want. You can't show any form of smoking ads on television anymore because they don't want that there. So, I think we're going to see some different stuff done, but yeah, I'm mostly with you that the ship has sailed and you got to it is what it is at this point. Like it's not going backwards. Everybody's making way too much money for it to go the other direction.
Absolutely. All right. Let's go here. Lake Show 1996. Pelinka signing THT over Caruso is still hurting us 100%. And look, I don't want to, I could spend an hour relitigating this whole thing. The bottom line, though, was that they didn't have to. They didn't have to make a choice. They didn't have to make this choice at all. They could have kept them both. They had the ability to do that. They chose not to. The Lakers did that to themselves. From what I've heard within the front office, the front office was split on what to do, and clearly they made the wrong choice. And it absolutely is hurting that. And that's just one of many, many wrong choices they made over the last 5 years. Now they've made some good ones too. I don't want to say it's all been bad, but yeah, that was a really bad one. It made no sense. That was yet another one where in the moment you knew it was bad, like the Zubats trade, the Mozgov deal, the Dang deal. You knew in the moment as that was happening, they were doing the wrong thing. That was another one where it was like, as they were making that decision, you were like, this is not the right choice. What are they doing? Why would they do that? This makes no sense. And they did it anyway. So it absolutely is still hurting them. And I think the accumulation of all these brain dead moves, they're paying the price for it now. When you look at the assets that they don't have really, that they've had to flip, where now they essentially have to bat 1,000 every offseason because they have no room for error because they've burned so many assets in so many other ways over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, and there were a lot of things said at the time that we have to be careful with the luxury tax and all this stuff, and there were not apron related things at the time that come into play now. Money. It was just money. That was it. This was only money related concerns. Yeah, they might have put themselves in position only have the taxpayer MLE versus the non-taxpayer, but whatever. Like that didn't really matter. This was really about money, and that was solely what it was. And yeah, not a good move. But I mean, man, we're That's ancient history we're living in there.
All right, let's go here. Giannis didn't request a trade. What will be the Bucks' next move? Did he not?
So
do we know
let's
that?
clear this up. There was reporting yesterday. Now, we'll be very upfront on this. Twitter was a mess yesterday. Like it was half the day. It wasn't working right. I was seeing posts come up hours after people had sent them out. There was some rumor out there. I don't know who it was because I haven't been able to track it down, but it wasn't Shams. It wasn't Stein. It wasn't Haynes. It wasn't any of the major NBA reporters. It wasn't Sam Amick. None of those guys. And no news came out. What has come out, I've seen a couple people say, is they haven't even met yet. Like there's talk that meeting now may be next week, because Giannis was doing some family time and some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think any of that reporting of he didn't request a trade, like, okay, yeah, because they haven't had a meeting yet, as far as we all understand. So at some point he's going to meet with the Bucks, like whether he meets with them face to face or it's his agents or whoever, it'll come down. But the guys I mentioned, Shine.
Shams and Stein together.
Shams and Stein. Yeah, Shine. That's what is that, a portmanteau or something like that?
Yep.
Combine them together.
That's a Benifer.
Yeah. Shams, Stein, and Haynes. One of those three are probably the ones that will have the story, and they'll figure all that stuff out.
So I'll say this. This is I'll tell you exactly when it's going to happen. He is going to meet with the Bucks, and he is going to request a trade on Wednesday. Why? Because I go on vacation on Wednesday. Damn it! That's what's going to happen.
Probably.
Oh, I'm going to speak.
I don't know. Requested a trade. That they save those for when like it's an actual deal goes down more than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's when they.
That's when they wait. Yep. All right, let's go here. And of course, I'm joking. I don't mean to say I literally know that's actually happening, so don't freak out. But Regulator said, are there Moneyball stats on how much each starter should make to maximize the salary cap? That's a good question.
Yeah, not in that sense. Like as people know by now, I love the movie Moneyball. I loved the book. That was the big push. It was the Bill Jamesification of things, where Bill James is a baseball writer who was a real pioneer of advanced stats in baseball. Back in the day, sabermetrics, as they called them in baseball. He was big on base percentage, and the famous quote in the movie, right, is
on base.
He gets on base, right? Do I care how he gets there? No, you do not, right? And he goes, guys, if you say it again, I'm gonna point at Pete. Like that's it, right? So like,
a great movie.
I love that movie. I love that scene in particular.
Yeah.
There's no one size fits all stat in basketball like that. People have tried with real plus minus, box plus minus, LeBron, all these stats that are out there that people really get into those things, but it's more dependent on other stuff, where once kind of the on base percentage stuff took root in baseball, it took about a 3-year period, and then every team was on it. Like all 30 baseball teams were kind of approaching the same sort of stuff. So yeah, there's not necessarily that, but I can tell you what everybody wants is, how do we get to a team where guys are super productive, but they are like underpaid, right? Like that's how you win. That's why rookie scale contracts, when they hit, are so valuable.
Yep.
Because like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams right now outproducing their contracts by a major mark. Victor Wembanyama already worth way more than what he's going to get for his next couple of years. If you can maximize while guys are on a rookie scale, you're way, way ahead of everybody else.
Yep, exactly. So that's what teams are looking at now. I don't think there's like a per position thing, because there's a lot of nuance in basketball too, and how you build a team, what style you want to play, all of that. Certainly
in which way your coach plays, right? Like is your coach like a defensive minded guy who keeps the center close to the rim? Do they want to switch everything? Like there's all kinds of stuff with that.
All right. Thoughts on Shams Charania on ESPN reporting the Nuggets are for sure going to make significant roster changes with Michael Porter Jr.'s value so low. Is it possible that Murray is the one who gets traded? So the Nuggets, we talked about the value of keeping a team together and making moves around the margins. The Nuggets are a team where they may, and I think the Bucks probably fit in this category as well, is a team where they've made their moves that they can make, and there's not a lot else that they can really feasibly tweak without making a significant move to their core. And so if they've come to the point where they say, you know what, this isn't working here and this isn't maximizing Nikola Jokic, they're a team that's probably going to need to, after a few years of seeing it, make a more significant move. So could Jamal Murray be the one that gets traded? Potentially. I mean, I suppose, but I know that won't be their first option. It would be to trade. Yep. It would be to trade, I think, Michael Porter Jr., who, we talk about players that are earning their contract. MPJ's probably not, and that's going to be the challenge with trading him. But it's going to be tough for Denver to find that right up. Now, if they wanted to trade Aaron Gordon, I'm sure there'd be a number of teams interested. I'm sure there would be teams interested in Jamal Murray as well. Of course, there'd be teams interested in Nikola Jokic. So I think they need to make some type of significant move. I just don't know how they figure that out. Like, if they could turn Jamal Murray into like two guys, including one guy to replace him, that might make sense for the Denver Nuggets, depending, of course, on who those guys are.
Yeah, that's the key thing, right? You need to turn it into a couple guys who can step in, because just a 1-for-1 is probably not really going to do anything there, right? Like that
is their problem.
Yeah, it's not going to change. Like if you switched, I'm just making it up, but you switched Jamal Murray for Trae Young.
Yeah.
Like that probably doesn't change anything for you, right? Like you're probably basically about the same as you were before. But if you could turn Murray into two good players, now that starts to swap things, and that starts to change things up a little bit. I wouldn't rule out Porter Jr. being the one who gets traded, because I don't know that Murray's contract is any more appetizing to teams than Porter Jr.'s is. Like I think, there's those out years on Murray.
That's a long deal.
That's a lot of money for a guy who's already had some knee trouble, has already missed some time. That gets to be very not so sure what happens there. And then you got Michael Porter Jr. Yeah, I mean, that one has to be a team who's like, you know what, we can afford him in our salary structure, and we'll get him right. We'll get this, shoulder thing figured out, and then he's going to be a huge, lift for us. That's probably more the way. But I think it's probably going to be more like, let's start combining like Najee and Saric, and we go forward that way. Also, I'll just say this. The Nuggets, and I've talked to a couple people, Deron Holmes apparently looks pretty good returning in the work he's doing to get back from a torn Achilles. They're excited to add him to the mix next year.
They were all in on him. They were very excited to get him.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun with him in that mix. Is that'll be your three big rotation, right? It'll be him, Gordon, and Jokic. And the good thing is they can all play with. You can't play all three of them, but any two of those three can play with each other, which is really solid too.
All right, let's go here. Reyes said, "Will the Blazers do Ayton, Avdia, Kamara for Reeves, Kleba, Shake, Gabe, Connect, Vando?" So now we're stacking up. You're stacking up so many salaries there. And
I don't even know if it works.
Right. I mean, that's a lot of salaries being stacked up there.
You're not swiping Kamara, which you would 100% be doing in this, because the only player that has anything near Kamara's value is Reeves. And then you're getting Avdia for free out of this. So you're not getting both of those guys for that type of package.
But I don't think anybody would trade Austin Reeves for Kamara, and I love Kamara.
Oh, I would. I'd trade Austin Reeves for Kamara tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's interesting. I would not. And I love Tamani Kamara, but I would not do that.
Hey,
I know 100% the Lakers would not do that.
We do disagree on occasion. See,
look at that.
Like we do every once in a while. But yeah, I love Kamara. Like I think he's going to be an all defense level guy for years to come. I think he's an improving offensive player. Like I think he's good. And there was another one in there about Austin Reeves for Dyson Daniels. No way with the Hawks. Why Austin Reeves and Trae Young together as a backcourt? It's like worse than Austin Reeves and Luka.
Now,
and you're not getting the first in there with that too. So I would not do that. Yeah, I love Kamara though.
No, I think Kamara is great. He'd be a great fit on the Lakers. Denny Avdija too has been fantastic. They gave
He's
up two
awesome.
firsts to get Avdija, so they're not
Mhm.
doing that. And even let me throw this in here, like if it is the Blazers are one of those teams where if it is anywhere close, they will not do the deal with the Lakers.
Mhm.
It would have to be a clear the Lakers are losing the trade, they're getting fleeced for them to do the deal. That's the way the Blazers I think view the Lakers. So
The other thing is Reeves doesn't really fit like in Portland either. You already
sure.
have Sharp, Henderson, and Simons, and even if Simons is getting traded, like still doesn't really fit. That's just a weird fitting group. They would have to be completely out on Scoot Henderson at that point, and they're just not. So yeah, it's just not the right fit. There's plenty of other places where I think Austin Reeves would be a lot better of a fit. It
Mm-hmm.
make a lot more sense than a team that's already got a bunch of guards they want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's go here. Rob said, how many players will be traded by the Raptors this summer?
Yeah.
I'm guessing at least two.
Let's see. I mean, it's the wing group is very crowded. I know they're content with Scotty Barnes as kind of a four, which is probably fine. In general with where a lot of fours are today, but then you still have because remember they got Brandon Ingram. I came across a guy like I forgot like a month ago about De'Aaron Fox on the Spurs. A bunch of
That's
people I think
right.
have forgotten Brandon Ingram's on the Raptors
Because he
because he never
never
played for
played.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they extended him, so they're in on him. They've got RJ Barrett. They like Grady Dick. They like Ochai Agbaji. Like you have a whole bunch of wing guys there, so something is going to give. Whether that's this summer or not, I'll be curious to see what they do at the draft. Do they go with a big man? If they go with a big man like Kama Mawatch, or do they go with Derek Queen? That probably a little bit of an overdraft for Queen. But then could you move Pirtle in a deal? If you go with another wing or another ball handler, does that free up one of those wings I just rattled off? Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe could you move Emmanuel quickly? But they've got definite options with that. I think there's certainly guys that they can figure out some moves to make to rebalance the roster a little bit.
Yeah, I do think that there's some moves coming for the Raptors. I think the Pirtle situation will be certainly one to watch. Like what happens with his extension eligibility this summer? Does that come to fruition, and does that come to a deal or not? But yeah, I do think there's moves. I don't think the Raptors have an appetite for like having another rough season, right? They want to be able
They want
to.
to start moving
They
forward.
want to start winning games, and that's
Yep.
evidenced by their what were we calling it again? Pre-agency.
Yes, free agency
Acquisition
with
of
Ingram.
Brandon Ingram.
Yep.
You can see that. They want to
Yep.
start winning right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's there's visions there that you can see where it's like, yeah, they could be especially in the East, they could be a playoff team next year, even just as currently constructed, could be a playoff team in the East because they also let's call it what it is. They heavily tanked down the really last third of the season. It was like, oh no, this guy can't play. He's got a sore back. Like they pulled out all the old stops of stuff. Like there might have even been a flu-like symptoms in there.
All right, let's go here. What do you think the Clippers do with their mid-level exception? Think John Collins is a realistic target? Yabusele, Brogdon. Well, John Collins has a player option, and I would imagine at 26 million, he's going to pick that up because he's not getting 26 million out on the market.
Yes. And then he doesn't fit into the MLE, so we'll take him out of the mix. Yabusele, maybe he could be a decent fit there.
I'd be splitting that MLE though between him and somebody else. I wouldn't the full 14
I would not
million
give
for
him
him be too much.
Completely agree. Yeah. Brogdon, they've been in on Brogdon before in the past. You're starting to get a little guard heavy, but you can make it work, especially if you're going to continue to play smaller opening lineups with Powell kind of masquerading as a 3. They've liked Brogdon in the past. So I could get there. I'd probably go with Yabusele plus another guy or two and split some stuff up. So yeah, I think I don't dislike that idea. I think he'd be a pretty good fit there.
Yeah. All right. Let's go here. Can we talk about the AI that's going around and everyone's using even ESPN to show highlight plays, etc.?
I don't know what he's talking about with the
To show
highlight plays.
highlight plays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I was
not.
confused by that part as well. Maybe that's something that I just haven't noticed,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
I tend to, when it's not game action, I tend to look away. Especially when there's only like one game going on. I'll look away and do other things. When there's not the game itself being played. So I will say I've probably just missed it. In general, I don't like the AI stuff as a writer. I don't like that it's actively trying to replace, what I do
sure.
primarily for my, living. I think so much of it gets things very, very wrong
It does.
there. Like people are putting up examples, all the time just of NBA related things that are wildly wrong, with stuff. So it's like you
The
gotta be careful. But in general, I don't love it.
the problem that it has is that the NBA news cycle, it's too fast. It's
Yeah,
too fast. So when it's pulling, like it would be different if I wanted to use AI to, hey, give me the 10 best recipes for baking this kind of cake or something
sure.
like that, right? Like that would be very applicable. But when we look at the
Until it tells
NBA
you to
news, like
just put it in the fridge and turn your fridge to 1,000 degrees, like
right, yeah.
then
But
it's like, oh,
like if I
okay.
like I jumped on like Grok this morning and I was like, all right, let's see how this works. I was literally just playing around with this and just said, what are the trending topics in the NBA right now? And it was spitting back some stuff from a year ago. It was spitting back some stuff that made
Yeah.
sense a couple of weeks ago, but doesn't make
Yep.
sense now. And even when I specified today, it's still not getting the fact that the NBA news cycle, what was being talked about yesterday is not being talked about today. That's the sports world. That's the way that it goes. And so that's the challenge with using AI for specifically for sports. It's that it tends to pull stuff that may no longer be relevant. And so
Yeah.
you can't just rely upon that. I'll tell you this though, Keith. I'm glad I'm not teaching. I'm glad I'm not still teaching right
Yeah.
now because so many kids would be using that. Hey, write me this paper and do this and do that. I mean, I had enough. I dealt with that enough as it was with kids going and copying and pasting stuff from Google or whatever. Now they can just have their whole paper written for them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have a daughter. She literally just finished her freshman year of high school a couple hours ago. And she is like everything that comes back is like you cannot use, all these different things, for
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And the teachers are pretty good at recognizing because quite frankly, it still
It
does get a
reads like
lot of
it's
things. Yeah,
yeah.
one, it doesn't read like any person would ever write and it gets wrong. Yeah, I mean AI can be a tool until it's giving you wrong information because it's almost like you telling your kid like, hey, all right, we're gonna go fix we're gonna go fix this light, and it's like I need a hammer, and the kid comes back with a screwdriver. Like that's
Yeah.
still too often. I think what happens with that, but yeah, and then you get into the whole water usage stuff where like we have a lot of people in the world that don't have access to clean drinking water. Let's solve that first. Then we can make computers that can think for us. But that's if we can all sit down sometime in the summer and watch Wally together and
Yeah.
see where we're turning the world into. Yeah.
I think when summed it up nicely. AI is a tool,
Yeah.
but people use it like a
Yeah.
solution, right? It's
Yeah.
not a cure-all for everything. And if you don't know what you're talking about on something, AI can give you some details, but it can also give you a lot of wrong information right now and pull stuff
Mhm.
that's not correct. So you got to be careful with that. That said, have we learned nothing from the Terminator movies? We know the
Yeah.
way this is gonna
Yeah.
go.
Yep.
We know.
That's why whenever I ask I'll say the dot a question or like I ask what time it is or anything like that or any of that, I always say thank you to it. Like, because I like,
Because
hopefully it will
at some
remember my
point it's coming
kindness
after you.
later. Yeah. When,
That little
when the
hockey
whole
puck
world
is
is
going to
run.
sprout
Yeah,
legs and come
exactly.
crawling up
Yep.
after you.
Yeah. When it's
Uh,
running the world, it will remember my kindness.
Jalen said, "How will the Ty Jerome market look?" So there's already some
Yeah.
rumors about him
Interesting.
maybe being linked to the Pistons, although I'm a
Mhm.
little surprised by that.
Yeah, I just don't. The Pistons are in a weird spot because they want to re-sign Malik Beasley. They could
Right.
get to a place where they can do, they could go cap space to re-sign Beasley, then use the room exception to get somebody else back. That could be like Beasley, then the room exception to get Schroeder. Because remember, to go cap space, they're gonna have to renounce everybody. Then they won't be able to re-sign those guys using bird rights. So, or there's another path where they use the non-taxpayer to re-sign Beasley and then use bird rights for guys like Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., and all that. So it really depends on where they go. There's other teams that like Ty Jerome. I think the playoffs proved anybody was thinking, this guy could maybe be our starting point guard solution. He's not. Like, he's just not good enough defensively to be that. But as a third guard off your bench that can play on or off ball and do some scoring, sure, jump in there and run with that.
All right, let's go here. Do y'all like these players for backup center for the Lakers? Sharp. What do you think about all the draft
Jamarian
guys?
Sharp and Ibu Baji, they're G League level guys. They're probably no better than
Christian because the Lakers had the 55th pick. That's what they're.
Yeah, those guys though are they're already in the league. The first two,
right?
They were G League players. Barako Zakarski, yeah, I don't hate that idea. I like him a decent amount. I like.
Would he be there at 55?
Probably not. Like that's the challenge.
What I'm saying.
Yeah, he's probably going to go a little earlier, so they'd have to find a way to move up in the second round. So we'll see. Yeah, and he's not going to step in and be great right away. I think what you would want to do if you got somebody like him, you're bringing him in, you're going to let him develop probably some in the G League at the end of your roster. So you still need two like regular real NBA centers, and then maybe by the end of the year he's ready to take over. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and this is the AR and first for I misread it. I apologize. AR and a first for Dyson Daniels? Yeah, maybe then. But I don't know. Trae Young and Austin Reeves is
it doesn't make sense together.
Yeah, it's just such a bad defensive backcourt. Like, yeah. Hey, here we go. Oh, hold on. We'll come right back, Kevin. I'm so old, the only AI I knew played for the Sixers.
And he's got Nick Van Exel as his avatar there. Gotta love that.
Yeah. All right. We can go back to Kevin's question. Sorry.
All right. I remember the reason why the Wolves traded Cat for Randall is because they wanted to keep both Nas and Nikhil Alexander-Walker, but now Randall's playing so well. If the Wolves keep him, can they also keep Nas and NAW as well?
It just depends on how expensive you want to be, right? Like that's the thing. Like, yeah, if they want to be, a pricey team, sure. Like they can re-sign those guys. They have the ability to keep all of them. They have the bird rights. They have the ability to pay them whatever, but they're already pretty expensive there.
Do you want to be a second apron team? That's really what it comes down to. 12.8 million right now below that second apron. That's where it gets tricky for them.
Yeah, and you're probably locking in at that point into second apron for a little bit, depending on what happens with Randall. I think the best thing for the Wolves would be they could get Randall and Reed to pick up their options for next year, then do what they did with Rudy Gobert and extend them off of that and give them both nice bumps, because that kind of keeps things a little bit more under control versus having to do it this summer. If you have to do it all this summer, that's going to be trouble.
Do you think that, Nas Reed's value is certainly above his player option though?
Yeah, it should be, but who's going to be able to give him that?
That's the problem.
That's it, right? So if he's like, all right, he's at, scroll up, because I think he's at 15 million this year. Or next year on the player option.
15 million.
Yeah, so 15 and change. So if you gave him 15 there, but then they extended him for like 25, like, okay, like that, all right, I delayed it a year, but it kind of helped. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of a challenge with that. So
all right. What's up, fellas? Out of all the centers the Lakers can get, I haven't heard John Collins' name mentioned much, because is he really a center?
Yeah.
He's like a 4 or 5, which is fine. And Keith, you and I are both fans of John Collins. We've talked about him for years.
If you had
I just don't think he said he'd be a solid fit for us. What do you guys think? I like John Collins a lot. I just don't know if you go and get John Collins and you say, there we go. Check the center box. We got it. It's done. That's the problem. And I think why you don't hear John Collins to the Lakers.
He's expensive. I mean, 26 million is not crazy, but that's going to cost you a couple guys, right? So that gets a little more pricey. So yeah, I think I would, I would probably look more at a true center. But yeah, I like John Collins. I don't hate the idea, but you still need a real center too.
All right, let's go here.
We'll do a couple more and then I got to run.
Yeah. Do the Hornets try to win next year, or does tear down rebuild continue this off season?
Yeah, I think it's going to be continue to build, but start to move things forward.
Yep.
Like I don't think it's going to be a like really sit it out next year, but I think it's going to be hopefully they're healthier with guys and they can start to move things forward.
Yeah, they've got to make some significant progress. All right, last one we'll do here. Could the Thunder flip multiple players at once?
No, flop. I
Flop.
read it as flip too.
Oh, God. Flop
No.
multiple players at once and get 4, 8, 10. Does anyone who enjoyed Sean Kemp and Shaq like watching this? Keith, for the life of me, man, I've got so many people that are so mad about the Thunder, and I don't know, like to me, we've seen far worse. Now, SGA did have a play last night where he grabbed the arm of Jaden McDaniels, kind of hooked the arm or whatever, and that's usually my big complaint when we saw Harden and Trae Young and guys like that doing that stuff. But I think this is all a little overblown, personally. All the criticism of the Thunder for the fouls they get away with, for the flopping and stuff like that. Particularly when you look at their overall free throw rate, it's not very high as a team. Just they have one guy who gets some calls, and I wish the SGA straight line drive. Oh, I'm going to veer off slightly and hit the defender, bounce off, and throw the ball up. I wish the NBA didn't call that a foul anymore. I think that needs to be taken out of the game. But that's like one thing, other than that, like if a guy pump fakes and the defender lands on him, that's a foul, and that's always been a foul. So I think this is all overblown, all this stuff trying to discredit the Thunder and what they've been doing.
Yeah, I said it the other day. There's actually no good teams. All 30 teams suck, and they only win because the refs like the other team more. And it's because the other team got hurt. That's the reason teams ever win anymore. Like that, it's just gotten very I don't know. It's just getting there's so much whining now. Like sometimes you get beat. Like it happens. Like there's better teams. Like it is what it is. I also don't really understand. Does anyone who enjoyed Sean Kemp and Shaq like what? Like I get Shaq took a ton of punishment. I don't remember Sean Kemp ever taking all that much money. If you had said like Shaq and Dwight Howard, I might have agreed, or even Shaq and like Olajuwon or young Tim Duncan used to take a beating. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like yeah, but that was a completely different game. I don't know anybody who enjoyed watching that much. We enjoyed it at the time because it's what we knew, and I don't want to get into the whole nostalgia is a hell of a drug argument, all that stuff. But yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, Keith, I went back with my daughter like a few months ago, and I was like, oh, I found wherever it was on streaming, the old Ninja Turtles cartoons. And I was like, oh my God, these were so great. I put it on and I watched like 5 minutes and went, oh my God, this is awful. And back then I thought this was amazing. I think when people really went back and they watched those games, they wouldn't be nearly as entertained because they'd be like, oh, well, it looks like a different sport. It's just totally different. And that's not to discredit anything that was happening back then. It's the games just played very differently. So I just think it's a little overblown when we get into all this, the Thunder free throw merchants and all that kind of stuff right now.
Yeah. I mean, they're not blowing teams out regularly because they're getting a bunch of free throws. Blowing teams out because they're really good and the free throws are on top of it. But it is what it is. Let's hope for better shooting from the Timberwolves.
Sure, it would make for an exciting series.
Yeah, let's get the series extended a little bit. I would like to watch a little more basketball, but that said, I do have 9 million things and articles to write because I'm not an AI and I do have to do the work myself. So we'll get there.
All right, everybody. We'll have a fantastic holiday weekend. Enjoy it. Spend some time with family if you can. And if anything big happens, we'll be around. Till next time, everybody. See ya. Stay safe. And thank you guys for joining us here on Front Office Friday.